Jimmy Carter, the 39th President of the United States. Carter grew up in Plains, Georgia as a peanut farmer, where he lived on the family farm with dad James Carter Sr., mother Lillian Carter, and two sisters. He was accepted into the Naval Academy in 1943. During a break from school, he married Rosalind Smith. After graduating, he was assigned to Admiral Hyman Rickover to develop a submarine nuclear program. However, his father died, and he was forced to return to the farm to support himself and his mother. He became Senator of Georgia in 1962, and then governor in 1970 after a failed attempt in 1966. Jimmy Carter ran for president in 1976 and beat Gerald Ford by a 0.1% margin in the popular vote. He was inaugurated on January 20, 1977. Jimmy Carter's main problem on the home front was the struggling economy and the lack of gas, which caused rising prices. He discussed the problems with Americans and urged them to be conservative with gas through a fireside chat. He then signed into law the National Energy Act.
Carter's greatest achievement in domestic affairs was without a doubt his National Energy Act. Although its effect on the economy was minimal, removing gas-guzzling cars and reducing the dependence on foreign oil were both lasting effects of his presidency. However, this went widely unappreciated as the general public only saw an increase in tax prices and energy prices, whereas many of them didn't understand what was actually going on behind the scenes.
Although this act initially helped to decrease the dependence on foreign oil, the economy was struck down by both wars in the Middle East and a price increase by OPEC. Inflation soon followed as it raised from 7.6% to 11.3% and then to 14% in 1980. The struggling economy was one of the reasons Carter would lose his bid for re-election. Carter strongly believed that foreign countries should have the rights spelled out in our founding document. In order to do this, he created the Bureau of Human Rights inside the State Department. And he held a strong stance on this even when it went against the American public's belief. He cut off relations with Brazil and Argentina, who were abusing its citizens and imprisoning them. Then, in 1977, he made treaties with Panama to give back the Panama Canal in 1999. Before Jimmy Carter came along, however, relations with Leonid Brezhnev and the Soviet Union were going well. Richard Nixon had good relations with Brezhnev, and so did Gerald Ford. But when Jimmy Carter came into office, he feuded with Brezhnev, forcing the leaders to meet in a stressed second strategic arms limitation talk. The treaty that came from this was signed by both leaders, but having been met with strong resistance in the Senate, and after the Soviets invaded Afghanistan, the treaty died.
Jimmy Carter's focus on human rights, relations with Russia, which was the #1 priority at the time.
Although his dealings with the Soviet Union were futile, his best move occurred when he invited the leaders of Egypt and Israel to Camp David to discuss peace. They were feuding over the Sinai Peninsula, which Israel had taken through various wars. Israel agreed to give back the Sinai Peninsula in sections over time, and peace was made between the two countries. After this success, he had his largest flaw as president by supporting the Shah of Iran even when the revolutionaries were taking over, and then allowed him to enter the U.S. for cancer treatment. Ayatollah Khomeini, the leader of the rebels, did not like this, and therefore the rebels stormed the U.S. Embassy in Tehran. They took 52 hostages inside of the embassy and demanded the Shah for their return. This became Jimmy Carter's biggest headache.
Carter's mishandling of the Iranian hostage crisis probably cost him the presidency. He made blunders in domestic policy, and the setback of the détente with the Russians were definitely factors. But the fact that he caused over 50 Americans to be taken hostage in Iran was just an unrecoverable flaw in his presidency.
It was made even worse that the hostages were released as soon as Reagan became president. Jimmy Carter's post-presidency, however, was one of the most successful of all presidents, as he worked with Habitat for Humanity for many decades, and won the Nobel Prize for Peace for his dedication to human rights. He will always be remembered for problems in his handling of the Iran hostage situation, yet Jimmy Carter's true legacy lies in his energy program and setting the stage for human rights first policy in the United States.